Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in. For those of you who are in another space outside of the library, I'm Dr. Ramona LaRoche, also known as Dr. Ray, and today we're here as part of the Sankofa Book Club, and we're going to be talking about a book called The Great Divide by Christina Enriquez. We have been reading this because for Black History Month, and of course today is the first day of Black History Month, I'm focusing on two particular programs related to the Panama Central America population. I'm particularly interested in connecting with Panamanians or Panamanian descendants that live here in South Florida. And this is one of the reasons why I decided for us to read the book. And we also will be having a program on February 12th called Graves Matter. And we will be focusing on three Afro Panamanian cemeteries that exist in Panama. These cemeteries are important because they all hold the remains of about 30,000 Afro Panamanians, each one of them, that helped to build the Panama Canal from the late 1800s to the 1920s. So there are many people buried there, particularly from the Caribbean islands, Barbados, Jamaica, Antigua, and other islands that several that I'm not going to mention all now, but it's important because of their history. And we'll be focusing on a particular organization that has been working on the preservation of these three cemeteries, and it's the CGM Cemetery Foundation, and their representative will be here on the 12th, as well as some of the librarian staff from the University of Florida and their Panama collection. I'm excited. Some of you may know that every year I do a program called Graves Matters, and for several years I've been focusing on cemeteries here in South Florida. But this year I wanted to expand my territory and go on a more global perspective because I thought it was important to start looking at some other concepts and how people honor their ancestors around the world. So I invite you, if you haven't already, to sign up for that program and join us. We will be here, as I said, with the speakers. We will also live stream it, but we hope that you will come in person because you'll get a chance to voice your questions, your concerns, and we'll break some bread together and really have a good time around this preservation piece around our cemeteries. So today, again, let me come back to the book. We do not have many people that came today. We had several people signed up, but so far we've just got a couple of people here. And so I'm going to just, hopefully, we've got some people online, and I've already posted that if you are joining us from online, can you please let us know where you're joining from? That will help us. And also, if you have questions or comments, you can also put them in any of the chats on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll do our best to address them. So, the Great Divide. What is it about? The Great Divide is about several worlds coming together, several people from around the world coming together, and the connecting force is all of these people are connected to the building of the Panama Canal. So, the book takes place during that time in the 1900s, early 1900s, and it gives you several perspectives. It gives you the perspective of Ada. Ada is one of our main characters, and Ada is a 17-year-old Barbadian girl from Barbados, and she decides to stow away on a ship to go to Panama to work because her younger sister is sick and needs an operation. So she leaves her mother and a little sister, takes some money that she's found in the house and stows aboard and gets over to Panama. Once she gets there, she goes through a few things, but she ends up getting work in a household. And the household that she gets work in are two white Americans who the husband has come in an effort to find a cure for malaria. So he's there as a research scientist. His wife is a botanist. And Ada ends up working with them because the wife becomes ill with pneumonia, and Ada is brought in to be somewhat of a nurse, if you will, a medical assistant to her. So that's the relationship between the two. Uh, I don't really want to talk all alone, but at this point, I don't have anyone that has joined us online. I don't see any comments. Once again, I'm going to ask you if you have any comments with regards to the book. If you will please post them, that would be really helpful. I know that we have some guests that have come, but they're here to support. They haven't read the book, but they're here to support. So they might have some questions or some thoughts, or maybe even some input about any experiences around Panama. And I'm going to open up the floor and ask our guests now. Have you ever been to Panama? Do you know anything about Panama? What's your relationship with Panama? What brought you here today?
Yeah. Well, today, thank you for asking. I came more because it's my first time at the library book club, and I wanted to get the experience of sharing and breaking bread, like you say, and communicating about things of different topics. So this is a good topic about Panama. I have not been to Panama, but I remember a couple of decades ago, I had a neighbor that was from Panama. They were Panamanian, husband and wife couple. They were in their early 30s and had one preteen daughter. And I was very impressed by the way that they present themselves, and they were very nurturing people, very family oriented, and very nice people, and very good neighbors as well. And me and the wife got along very well, and we would look out for each other. And she worked in the restaurant industry, and I think he did a little of that and something else too. They both had multiple jobs, but they were very good people. And if she had something and she think I was interested, she said, "Oh, I have da. You think you would?" I said, "Yeah." So, that started me doing that because she was doing that. But she was very proud to be a Panamanian, and she would, talk about things, every now and then when she had time, because she was very busy, and she had the one child, like I had the one child. But I just want to first of all say that I want to give thanks to the ancestors that paved the way for us to be here in this country. And I always have gratitude towards them, especially the Black women, because they bared a lot. And sometimes I could feel a spirit resonating in me with certain things that I do. And then I try to give that back to my granddaughter and put and instill in her the value of family, generation, and ancestry. And this is important to me. So, that's my little 2 cents in it. I do apologize that I didn't read the book. I just had registered like 3 days ago.
It's all right. It's no problem. We're just happy to have you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you.
So, I know we're talking about Panama, but may I ask, are you from South America, or are you from the United States? Where are you from?
Well, I'm 4th generation Bahamian American, so I'm of Bahamian descent. My grandmother came over with her mom to this country, and my mom and I were born here in the States. And so I do have the Caribbean background.
Did they originate in Florida as the first stop?
They did.
Okay. Do you see any, you mentioned you had a Panamanian neighbor, so I'm going to lean on that a little bit. Do you see any similarities between the Panamanian culture and the Bahamian cultures?
Well, I know in general Caribbean culture is more family oriented. I'm not saying that me as an American, I identify myself as Black American and Bahamian descendant. The Caribbean culture is more family oriented to me, and they focus more on values of uplifting and connecting the family in a higher place. Versus us in the state, we mostly be focusing on trying to keep our rights and other things like that.
So when you say rights, do you mean like individual rights versus like collective rights?
Collective rights. We're constantly fighting for this, that, and that. And to me, Caribbean people don't be fighting about rights. Like they more like, we're gonna set these goals, achieve them, and even though we know there are going to be certain obstacles that may be placed, we're not going to focus on.
Okay. Have you been to the Bahamas?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
Okay. You go often?
I do not, because me and the water don't agree.
Well, you don't take a boat, right?
I did, and the planes, I've never been on one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a motion person with the sickness.
I got you. Okay. That's interesting.
It is.
So, there's a theme in this book. This theme of people leaving their homelands in order to get more opportunity.
Correct.
And that theme carries over whether it was your people, for example, that came from the Bahamas, I'm sure, for more opportunity in the States.
Correct.
Or my people, for example, that were in South Carolina and decided to go up north to New York City during the Great Migration. So that it's this overlying theme that happens. Do you think that today people are still doing that?
I do.
You do?
I really do. Okay. It might not be in migration in big volumes, but people are still moving forward, trying to get better opportunities. I'm in a situation for that right now myself. And I'm going to relocate. I'm going to step out on faith and do it and not let fear take control,
Okay.
And like I said at the beginning, I thank my ancestors for all that they've done. I'm very grateful, because had it not been for them, I wouldn't be here, and I could feel their spirit in me sometimes. They endured a lot.
Right.
And the Bahamians were one of the settlers that came to South Florida that helped build it. Like the Flagler, the railroads, and a lot of those, the foundations of Miami.
Right. Coconut Grove, right?
Settlers there first. And when I looked at, the lyrics theater, down
Lyric theater.
I went to exhibit there, and I saw the way they lived. Oh my goodness. I think they call it shanty town or something. And what they had to endure when they first got here and when they settled. They sacrificed a lot. And I heard some of the stories from my grandmother, the ones about you had to be across, if you were on the beach, you had to be back over here before the sun hit. My grandma told me all that stuff. And, she had the ID that granted them access over, and he had to show that ID in order to go and come from the beach. And she pretty much did service work. She had to take care of other people's kids and leave her kids for days. And my mom, which was the oldest, she pretty much had to take care of the family. So she had to grow up very fast and quick.
We have some of those IDs you mentioned. We have some of that in our collection here.
It is there. I saw them last year for the first time.
Yeah. We have an amazing archives and special collections here at the African the Research Library. I invite listeners to come and visit. You just call and set up an appointment, and you're welcome to come. Um, I'm hearing these themes, migration for better opportunity,
right.
Similarities, whether it be, Panama, Bahamas, the Carolinas, the South.
Right.
The other thing that this book touched upon, which I thought was interesting, was that it hit all walks of life. So
Right.
It wasn't just, quote, say poor Black people or people that need opportunity, but it was a variety of people. And that's what I think was the crux of Panama being such a cosmopolitan city where people were there from everywhere.
Right.
And to this day, it's still like that. There are people there from everywhere.
Okay.
It's a very international place.
Mm.
And when I think of other towns, like, for example, here in the United States, Charleston, for example, South Carolina, historically, it's always been like that. In the 1700s, for example, you had the French that came from Saint Domingue, which was later Haiti. After the Haitian Revolution, a lot of those people came to Charleston. They started some of the first French newspapers in Charleston and so forth. So again, those opportunities, leaving one place that was going through changes,
right.
and then, coming to a new city and developing. But again, people were coming from all over the world.
Right.
Barbados is another example of that. People from a lot of different places were there, particularly because they have a fort there. They have all this.
That was a major fort.
Yeah, they had this. So they had a lot of people coming from different parts through military, and it just kind of opens up, a road for newcomers, if you will.
Right.
So the other thing about the book, I was talking about people from different walks of life. What it also does, it gives you an example of the people that lived there and what their thoughts were about
all these new people.
The new people, but also taking away their land to build this canal. So we can think about places also in our cities as well.
Yes.
Where, maybe it used to be a cemetery, or maybe it used to be your house, and now it's Highway 95, or now it's, some development and so forth. And in the book, they refer to the canal as the big mouth. Because the mouth was basically eating up and taking up land and so forth. And there's one particular character who, his father is a fisherman, right? Living in like the country of Panama. And his father, that's all he's done all his life is fish. And then he met this woman, he falls in love with her, they get married, they have the son, but then she goes on and takes her life. So the father's left with his son, and it's just the two of them basically. But the son has no desire to be on a boat. He gets sick on the boat. He has no desire to fish, and the father thinks he's a wimp, basically. So they go back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the son decides he's going to go work on the canal. So it builds up this friction, and I think the writer has a great way of creating that friction for you to see. Because father was totally against the son going to, do this work. The son went to get a new pair of boots to work in the canal. The father is like, a sandal wearer that he makes his own sandals and all that. It was just such a opposite in direction in terms of where the both of them were. But later, towards the end, and this may be a spoiler, but later towards the end, the father finally, for 6 months, they're not even speaking to each other in the house. So finally, towards the end, the father somehow is convinced that he needs to go and find his son. And at one point, his son was missing for 2 weeks because the son had malaria and was in the hospital. And the father was worried, but he didn't go look for him. So now the son is willing, so the father decides to go to town to find his son. This is the first time he's been in town since they built the canal. They're building the canal, so he's seeing like all this machinery, people, using dynamite, all kinds of stuff. But he can't find his son anywhere. So he finds his way back home, and then the son finds his way back home, and somehow they connect again because the father now has more empathy and understands why his son could not just hang on the boat with him, but the son wanted other opportunity. And even as the father's like walking around the canal building, he's like, now I know why he bought these boots, because these sandals are not working. And, you know, it was just really, I love the way that this writer did that, you know. So that was, you know, two other characters. And they had a woman who lived next door who was like a reader, you know, like a spiritual advisor reader. And she kind of told each of them what they needed to be doing. And she finally said, go and find your son. And that's what he did. So that was, you know, another character that kind of stood out. And also the son meets Ada, the Barbadian girl.
The 17-year-old.
Yeah, and they're kind of drawn to each other because he passed out when he had the malaria, and she helped him. And then he ends up going to the hospital. So he later on sees her and recognizes her, and they become friends. So in the end, when she's getting ready to leave to go back, he wants her to stay, but of course he never voices that because she's so excited to get back to her mother and sister. So he just listens and, you know, bids her adieu, and she finds her way back. So the other interesting thing is the mother, Ada's mother, lives on a plantation that her grandmother, her mother, and her lived all their lives. Well, she wasn't a slave because remember now slavery's over, right? Because slavery ended earlier in the Caribbean than it did here in the States, right? You want to say something?
Oh no! Before you go back to touch that, it was a lot of issue with the malaria because you said the mother had it too, right?
No, I said her sister had pneumonia and had to have an operation.
Okay.
Yeah. So the mother decides that she has two girls while she's living on this plantation. It's no longer a plantation now. They're free, but they don't own anything. They're on somebody else's land. They're like sharecroppers in this country. So the mother leaves. She's allowed to leave, and she takes her house, and she moves 3 miles away, but she builds up her house, and she's so proud because she's a dressmaker, a very fine dressmaker. But because of poverty that has come, you know, during the canal thing, nobody's buying dresses anymore. So what you later realize is that the reason why she left and got away is because she has had a relationship with the white owner of the former plantation, and that he's the father to these two girls.
Wow.
So that's another character that's built up because, you know, it's like she's left and doesn't want anything else to do with him. He's a married man, that kind of stuff. So, but because the girl is sick, the other younger sister is sick, the word gets back to him. But the mother, the dressmaker, decides also that she can't get enough money to get this operation, so she goes to the house and knocks on the door, and the man's wife goes off on her, right? So his best friend says, you know, tells him what's going on, so he ends up sending a doctor to the house, and it's a black doctor, a black British doctor, right, who's from Barbados, but he's connected to Britain as well. So he comes, he sees the girl, and he realizes, she doesn't need an operation. She just needs to have her lungs drained, and I can do that right here. So he does it, and later on down the line, when the big sister comes back, when Ada comes back, Ada doesn't want to learn how to do dresses like her mother. Ada becomes his medical assistant.
Wow.
You know, so it's a really way that the writer weaves all these different characters. I was talking to someone else that was reading the book, and she said it's hard to keep up with the characters. There's so many characters. And I said, you're absolutely right, but, you know, you get through it. So, you know, and I'm talking so much about the book I'm doing, probably spoiling it for a lot of people that, you know, want to read it, but I don't see that anybody has joined us. It looks like it's us. So, you know.
But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. But I hope that, you know, you will get a chance to read the book. As you can see, I made a lot of different notes around it.
See that.
Because I always think that, like some of the things that stood out, like here says, they talked about moving in this house, and the books were covered in mold. And I started thinking about how we live in these places by water and how mold. South Carolina is like that. Florida is like that.
It is.
Panama is like that. So
don't make for a good book.
Yeah. So you have to really be mindful of what you keep around your house and how you take care of it.
Right.
And stop me anytime if there's something you want to share or ask or say. But yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the characters that kind of stood out. There were many other characters too, but those are some of the ones that stuck out.
Mm-hmm.
And there were definitely a lot more people from all over. One thing I learned in the book, but also during a trip, instead of having black and white like we had here in the U.S., in Panama they had the gold and the silver. Mm-hmm. So the gold were the white people and the silver were the black people. So,
really?
Yes.
That's the color representation or a symbol representation?
Symbol, but for example, if you worked on the canal zone, right, and once you got your paycheck and you went to shop at the commissary, if you were black, you had to go to the silver. If you were white, you had to go to the gold.
Wow.
So, and having made some friends with some of the people currently today that have grew up on the zone, they talked about that. How when their parents shopped and you were given.
And what about the currency?
You were given coupons. Yeah, coupons. And you could not, like, if I gave you my coupons and you went and bought extra, they would be watching you to see that, you take more than you're supposed to. You could get in trouble for stuff like that. Wow. It's almost like today if somebody gives, their food stamps to somebody and sells or whatever, they could get in trouble. So that's how they broke up socially, the people. Instead of black and white, they called it gold and silver. And they got more money. They were paid more. The gold people were paid more than the silver people. And the numbers are in the book, but I don't remember them offhand. But there definitely was a pay discrepancy.
Right.
So it's just
that was the experience of the local or the
anybody that came to work on the canal zone.
Okay. Now, because you would ask me that question, like differences in the culture of like people from the Caribbean versus people. Do you think that they focused on that disparity of being a difference? Anybody, whether it was local or people that came, do you think that they focused on that more, or they just only wanted to focus on just being able to live and survive that period of time more?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Can you rephrase it?
Yeah, because to me, it's like people from the Caribbean and the Panamanian or any of those areas that are not in the States. It's like they know what they're going through, and they know the difference of how they're being treated, the gold and the silver, but they don't focus on it. Like,
so you asked me, did they focus on it or not?
Yeah, do you think, because that's from what I getting out of it and what I see from the future and the past of people that are not from the United States. They don't tend to dwell on it, even though they going through it and it's painful, as well as degrading, dehumanizing, all of that stuff. They still don't let it be the main focus of their drive. I don't know if anybody else see that besides me. That it's a difference.
As you're describing it, I'm thinking about, once again, the son that decided he would work for the zone, even though his father didn't want him to. So there's this particular day that the foreman, who's from the U.S., who's a southern white man from the U.S., he decides that he's going to go after this Jamaican guy. And when I say go after, he's like giving him a hard time. And say if he had to dig five, he had to dig
He
5
gave
piles. She gave him
extra
10.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So then he told him his chit to get paid. He said, if you don't do this extra, I'm gonna tear up this shit. Right. So the guy got so into digging. He kind of got in a stupor, if you will. He was like, because of the heat and everything.
Right.
And he passed out. Not only did he pass out, he died.
Wow.
So the man that had demanded him to do this, he went back up on the bluff to watch all of this. So the Panamanian boy, who's the son of the fisherman, he went up and he approached him. He said, "You can't, you killed him." Blah blah. And so he told him, "You get back to work or whatever." And at that point, he knew he could no longer work on the canal. He knew that his father was kind of right in the sense of don't go working for these people because they don't care about you. They care about this canal being built.
Right.
So in that sense, I think people were affected, and it did get to them in different ways. Like I've heard some conversations about people who had relatives that worked on the canal, and the fact that you may have 5 or 8 kids at home, but you're only making $1 or a few dollars a week or whatever it was, but you know you're making less than the other people. Right. It has to impact on you. So how do you may not complain about it verbally, but maybe you start drinking more. Right. You know, or maybe,
try to get an escape.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think just like in slavery times, I think that our people, alcohol has been, what do I want to call it? A number for us in so many ways in so many of our communities.
Well, it's a different type of escapism. Yeah. That our people have used. Yeah. And like I said, it's amazing. I give thanks to them because I don't know how they did it. I really don't. And I just know that it's a difference from my grandmother and her mom, them generation, the way they handle versus us in the States and our modern generation and the way we handle it. Right. And so just give me 1 second. In the interest of, since we have no one, it doesn't appear that anyone has joined us online, or if they are, they're not. Oh, okay. Miss Anitra's there. Yes. Hi, Miss Anitra. How are you? Somebody say very interesting.
Thank you for joining us. I was just getting ready to say that in the interest that no one besides the two of us here have joined that we're aware of, I'm going to sign off on this particular piece, and we're going to continue our discussion just here on one-on-one. So, Ms. King, thank you for joining. I'll talk with you soon. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much, everyone. And please, if you get a chance, do read the book. It's a great book.